This is Everything is Personal with Len May.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Everything is Personal. And welcome, my lovely co-host, Mr. John Small.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here, Len, on this Friday afternoon. Maybe I shouldn't date us. Well, on this day.
You can date us.
Okay.
Friday.
So it's a Friday afternoon. Thank God it's Friday afternoon. And we're heading into the weekend. Big plans for the weekend, Len?
This is it.
This is the highlight of
This is my highlight of the weekend. That's it.
All right. Well, that's cool. I'm sort of thrilled and honored to be the highlight of your weekend.
Well, thank you. You're always the highlight. By the way, before we started, I just want to make a comment about your shirt.
Yes.
And I thought maybe you were going to ask me how my day was, but I'll make a comment on your shirt. So you were wearing a Mobb Deep shirt.
Yes.
That has a dragon on it, or some sort of resemblance of a dragon, right?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. R.I.P. Prodigy, for sure.
Yeah.
That's an awesome
Mobb Deep
shirt.
is, they are. I recommend if you want to just break into some Mobb Deep, listen to Shook Ones Part 1. I don't know if there was a Shook Ones Part 2, but Shook Ones Part 1 is one of the greatest raps ever recorded.
Absolutely. And it's still, the kids nowadays still use that terminology, shook, and they don't know it came from.
I don't even know where it is. They do give it a shout out in 8 Mile, which is already not even a dated movie, but they actually play Shook Ones in 8 Mile, which I thought was very cool because I always thought it was a very cinematic rap. And I actually went down the rabbit hole just the other day on YouTube and figured out where the samples came from. And it was just all sorts of weird, interesting.
I love that. Doing that.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to ask me how my day was.
Yeah. How was your day? Oh, yeah. How was your day, Glenn?
Today was a good day.
Did your mom cook breakfast with no hog and
no hog today?
No hog today.
And I didn't even have to use my AK.
It's always a good day when you don't have to use your AK-47. And when the Lakers beat the Seattle Supersonics, it's just a good day. What a great rap that is.
Exactly. That's amazing. Yeah.
So Ice Cube, today is a good day. We'll put it in the notes. Check it out. If for some weird reason you've been in the cave and have not heard that rap, another great storytelling rap.
Hey, have you ever heard when Justin Timberlake and Jimmy Fallon do the whole thing? Like they do a history of rap and they go through and they do their
pretty amazing.
Oh my God, it's amazing. They do one of those. So it's pretty funny. And he stops and goes, "Today I didn't have to use my AK." And he's like, "Wait, today you have to use your AK? Really, Jimmy?"
Yeah, Jimmy's
going off on a tangent. So there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Number one, I had great feedback from an episode that we did about going over our DNA results. So yours and mine. Like people were saying, "Oh man, I learned so much from that." So I was thinking that we can invite people if they are interested in doing that, and I'll put it out to all the listeners and viewers. If anybody is of a certain, I don't want to call status, or if they're interested, if they're interested in learning about their own DNA, that's something that we may be inviting some people on the show and going over their DNA results. I think it'd be pretty cool if they're willing to share that. So I'm just putting it out in the universe to listeners as well.
Quite an offer, because it's fascinating.
It's so fascinating. I love doing it, but it's like, it is literally like putting pieces of the puzzle together and doing like sort of reading the tea leaves. But I had this conversation with my mom the other day because she was telling me that the CBD that I suggested for her, she was saying that it puts her to sleep. She takes it before bedtime and it puts her right to sleep. For me, I take the same exact one and I'm up. Like it keeps me up. I'm just watching TV or whatever. It doesn't do anything in terms of putting me to sleep. It allows me to focus maybe. So I just found that super fascinating.
And it's interesting because you obviously share some DNA there. And so why does it work for her but not you?
We do and we don't.
Right.
So I went over both of my parents' DNA results. I read both of them. And it's so funny how different my mom and my dad are. My
Right.
mom, I think has, I'm whispering, the Jew gene. I think she has one of those.
Yeah.
and my,
She's
and my
lactose,
dad does
so she's lactose intolerant and incredibly anxious.
that. And my dad actually doesn't have any of the mental health mark. I got most dads except for one. I have one of them that we talked about that's more on the depressed side, which I don't really get until I did feel that once or twice in my life when I was going through my divorce. I definitely felt more of a depressive state, but I don't get the whole anxiety thing. But I do understand where some people, everybody consumes cannabis at some level. I understand where they can feel that type of feeling. And if they're feeling that type of feeling, I'll describe, and you can describe your own, which you've done before. But when you feel that and you have a genetic predisposition that can actually take you into another dimension, like it can trigger that anxiety, it can trigger that psychosis like effect because you're actually feeling something on a physical level. So I took a deep dive into medical journals because you asked me a fantastic question. You said, and I'm paraphrasing, you said, what actually happens internally within my body that actually makes me feel that way? What happens where, my heart starts racing, all that stuff. So we're gonna lose a bunch of audience members because I'm gonna dive deep and geek
You're not
out.
losing me. I'm
Science.
fascinated about this. I want to know. I want to know the science. What is happening to you? All these reactions. We always talk about, oh, it makes you feel this way. Well, what's really going on? I think sometimes just knowing what's going on makes you feel less anxious because you're like, oh, this is normal.
Well,
part of it is just, yeah.
That's exactly it. You said it's exactly it. That's what happens when you have knowledge, you know what's going on. You can deal with that kind of thing because it's like having some sort of trip. And the first time you trip, you're like, oh my God. And then next time you're like, I know what to expect. So you have to setting with everything. But I'm a big believer in knowledge and power. So in your situation, you start feeling your heart rate elevates. You start feeling a little anxiety, but at first it's basically your heart rate, right? Is that what happens with you?
Yeah. I suddenly get a wave that hits me. It's like a wave. It literally feels like a wave.
Mhm.
And my heart leaps, kind of does a little leap. And then I look around and I'm like, oh shit, something just changed in my reality.
Right.
I am high. And it takes me a minute to figure out what's going on, or a minute, 10 seconds. But in that moment,
feels like a minute.
It feels like a minute.
An hour.
20 minutes later, I'm like, what just happened? And then I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. And then it takes me, sometimes I'll go and I'll look at myself in the mirror or whatever, if I'm alone. This always seems to happen when I'm alone. It doesn't happen when I'm with other people. It's just when I'm alone and doing all the MRI. So yeah, then I start feeling my heart rate. Am I supposed to be feeling that way? So you tell me what is happening? And what did you find out?
Well, so the endocannabinoid system, as you know, and most of our listeners know, that it's involved in so many different things within our bodies. And the goal of it is to maintain homeostasis, which is balance. But it's involved in mood, it's involved in movement, it's involved in appetite, all these different things. But the one thing that I found fascinating, it's involved in controlling blood pressure. So this is what happens. So when you consume cannabis, it acts really similarly to THC, how anandamide works, which is our bliss hormone inside our bodies, and the endogenous endocannabinoid. And what happens is when you actually consume THC and it binds to that receptor, your blood vessels, they actually relax and widen, they get bigger. So when that happens, it's called vasodilation. And when that happens, it actually influences the heart rate, and the heart starts pumping harder and faster to compensate for that because you're adding more anandamide or more THC. So that's actually what's happening. It starts working harder. And to get really geeky and sciencey, it affects the transient receptor ankyrin type 1, which is called the TRPA1 receptor, which further vasodilates the resting heart rate. So think about it this way. Your resting heart rate is between 60 to 100 beats per minute. By consuming cannabis, THC, it can actually increase your resting heart rate by 20 to 100% in some people. So your actually heart rate when you're at rest, it can actually increase a lot more than that. And that actually drops your blood pressure. So your vasodilation drops your blood pressure and your heart beats faster to compensate for that. So when your heart starts pumping faster, you can get dizzy, you can get faint. And if you have some predispositions to anxiety in the first place, or even, PTSD or anything like that, now that record starts playing over and over in your head. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you're freaking yourself out. But it's a normal occurrence to have that. Now, if it happens over a prolonged period of time, and you have some challenges with your heart as it is, irregular heartbeat, etc., you should be aware of that. But it's very, very normal for your heart rate to accelerate when you're consuming THC because of the drop in blood pressure, and your heart needs to work faster and harder in order for that blood flow to start, to keep pumping the same level. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think, like I said, part of it is just not knowing. And I think it's important to know, like, I am not having a heart attack right now. Cannabis has never given anybody a heart attack, as far as I know. Look, I mean, probably everything has given somebody a heart attack, but as far as I know, cannabis is not the leading cause of cardiac arrest and it probably has never caused anybody to have a heart attack. You probably have a heart attack because you have pre-existing conditions. So no, I think that's really important to know. And that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
So I won't be as worried about it.
It just removing the house. Yeah, it's that. It's exactly what you said. It's that worry, that concern, that fear,
cycle,
right? So if you actually know what's going on inside your body, right? You know what's going on. You're like, oh, when I consume cannabis, my heart is going to beat faster because it needs to pump more blood because it's accelerating, the resting heart rate. So that's, as long as you know that that's a normal occurrence of when you consume cannabis, then you don't have to freak yourself out. But
and
some people
enjoy it. Yeah.
They'll trigger that. Yeah. Some people, it's like adrenaline. Yeah. I'm getting adrenaline.
Yeah, wow. That's really good. It's like my blood's pumping through my body all of a sudden. I don't even need to get on the Peloton.
That's what it is. You know what? I think that's a good idea. You should just smoke weed and then sit back and say, my heart is working overtime. So it's just a workout.
That's why sometimes I don't like to smoke alone, because I do like to smoke with somebody else, because then that probably drive them crazy. No, that's why nobody ever wants to smoke with me, because I'm always like, am I supposed to be, like, if we smoke together, Lennon, we should probably do an episode where we just get high together, and then I can ask you a lot of questions while I'm high. But I'll be like, am I supposed to be feeling this? Are you sure? Because right now I just forgot where I was, and whatever. And it's good when you're with somebody. There's something about like being able to check in. It's kind of nice, like you said, setting, right?
But it's funny that you say that, because I'm an old school and I like to pass the joint around. So nowadays you have several challenges. Well, first of all, we know it's COVID, so passing a joint around to people nowadays is probably something that's frowned upon, or at the very least. But second of all, this whole thing with vapes, it's took away the whole thing of like,
wait, something just happened.
Joint around.
I don't know if I was just high, but for some reason the internet connection just started going in slow motion, and you started speaking in slow motion. I thought maybe I had inhaled something that I didn't even realize.
I was
You're freaking me out, Glenn. Suddenly it just started getting really buggy. No, but so you were saying that what were you saying? I was so high that I completely forgot.
I was saying the notion of sharing.
Oh yeah, you were saying that sharing is caring, and yet
that whole.
Yeah, no, something's weird with your connection all of a sudden.
God damn it!
I know, it's so annoying. Resume recording. Here we go.
Yeah, so it's the whole thing of being able to pass a joint around, and you talk about
pass the Dutchie on the left hand. Yeah. I've always wondered, is that about passing weed? Nobody's ever explained the pass the Dutchie.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Because it's kids rapping it, and it didn't matter in Jamaica. It doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter. Yeah,
Because there was, remember, the duchy was I always heard it was a collection thing for like, poor people. And then, but man, no, there is a cannabis company called Dutchy. So I think they probably did their research.
Yeah, I think I was talking to a friend of mine who's actually Dutch, and he was saying that what was it called, the Dutch butler or something? There's a whole saying or some lexicon that they refer to for cannabis, but it has to do with the Dutchy and Dutch. So
all right. Well, note to engineer, at this point, you bring in past the Dutchy for just a minute.
Yeah, put it in.
Put it in. We got to hear that song.
So the point I was trying to make is that, first of all, passing a joint during COVID is at the very least frowned upon, if not worse. So we try to not do that unless, people don't have COVID or tested or whatever. But just in general culture, this whole vape culture, right? So you said you wanted to share with other people, but if everybody has their own vape, it loses that connection to other people.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I get a lot of press releases now about the pre-roll, these mini pre-rolls. They're called like sometimes people call them dog walkers because they're like the amount of pot that you would consume in walking your dog, which I think is pretty clever. But these, you can see like the whole industry is sort of gearing towards the not sharing culture. This was even before COVID, but now very much more with COVID. And this is giving me a story idea actually. But it is interesting how the industry is kind of like responding to this lack of sharing. And that's what most people liked so much about pot, was that you would pass it around. I don't think I ever smoked a joint that I didn't share with somebody up until I moved to California and it became legal. And, yeah.
No, I agree with you 100%. So that let's try to bring that back.
Let's bring it back. Damn, I smoked a joint with Sarah Silverman right before, and I only smoked it with her because I don't even like cannabis, just because it was her.
Well, now you're bragging.
You're bragging.
You're name dropping. You're bragging. I know Sarah Silverman.
I was at a club, and I know I'm so name dropping. But the only reason I brought that up is because I realized that I only did that because I wanted to share and I wanted to talk to her. But it brought me into her group. Like, it wasn't even a group of famous people. She was just outside this bar that I was at, and she was smoking and with like 5 other people, and then just passing the J around.
That's awesome.
That was a different era.
Maybe we can get Sarah's DNA test and we can go over her results. I think she may have the G gene too. Just
it's suspicious. I don't know. She's so Christian in her ways.
One more name drop from me, since I have to match your name drop, which
it's gonna be tough.
It's not get the same.
Silverman's pretty up there.
It's very hard to match. But I did have a Danny Masterson experience. By the way, caveat: whatever's going on with legal issues with Danny, I don't know anything about it, and I don't condone or support or anything. But I've been reading some stuff. Yeah. But that '70s show, it was always that guy Hyde. He was smoking weed in their basement. When I saw him out, I was smoking a joint. I'm like, hey man, I got to smoke a joint with Hyde. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So that was an experience, smoking a joint with Hyde.
That's pretty good. I mean, listen, it's not, is it Sarah Silverman? I don't know. It really is. It's really up to the people listening. You let us know in the comments below whether that was as good as the Sarah Silverman
battles. We're going to have a battle. Like, they have
that
battle. Yeah. The battle, the DJ battle against, like it was Jill Scott and Erykah Badu and whatever they have.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen those. We'll do like which celebrity got high with, which is higher, higher.
Which celebrity did we get high with that's cooler? You've done Be Real. I've done Snoop Dogg. You had some other stuff you wanted to talk about today.
Yeah. I want to kind of shift gears for a minute and talk about best, worst, and first jobs. I was actually talking to a friend of mine. He's like, what was your first job? I'm like, well, do you consider shoveling snow as a first job? He's like, yeah, it's kind of a first job. I said, well, I'll tell you what I did when I was shoveling snow. So in Philly, years ago, when I was a kid, there was a lot of snow. We used to get a lot of snow. They don't get a lot of snow anymore, but there's no such thing as global warming. I'll just that. But there's not the same amount of snow as we used to get.
Well, the science is really still out on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's very, very little science on that in reality. But anyway, so we would go out and it would snow a lot. We'd come out and knock on doors and say, hey, can we shovel your driveway? $15 or $10, whatever it was. And if you do the car, it's up to $20. And we kept raising our prices. But then the next time around, when it snowed, I would go around and said, oh, Billy was over here, and we already told Billy we're gonna shovel, or Billy's gonna shovel our sidewalk. So I'm like, oh, okay. So what I started doing was the day before it snowed, like I watched the weather and it's going to be a snowstorm, I would go around the neighborhood with a piece of paper and I would write people's names down. I would say, hey, if it snows tomorrow, can we come by and shovel your driveway? So we reserved those spots. So Billy and his crew couldn't beat us to that. So that was, but I'm not sure if that's really a first job. That's sort of like a first entrepreneurial kind of thing.
Were you getting paid to do that?
Yeah, we're getting paid like 10, 20, 15, 10, $20 to shovel driveways. So definitely, and I had a crew. I had me and my two best friends.
That is, you're just reminding me of a story that I haven't thought of in 40 years, where a friend of mine and I were doing shoveling driveways, and we were walking down the street and he was kind of dragging his shovel down the street, kind of like as we were walking, but it got stuck in a rivet and it pushed into his groin in such a way that he screamed and said, "John, I'll see you later." And he ran back to his house. he was quite injured. So that is so we're talking about best and worst jobs, right? That was
we're talking about first jobs. Then I'll go into best and worst jobs in a minute, but I was trying to make it. Oh, by the way, you reminded me of the story. So my friend Eric and Steve, they're waiting for me to get out of my house. They have their shovels because I'm always running behind and my dad's yelling at me like usual or something like that. And I see them outside my window and they're having they have two shovels and they're having a fight and they're throwing snow at each other with shovels. And I see them swinging the shovel. And then all of a sudden I see Eric, I walk outside and Eric is like, ow. And he grabs his hand. And Steve hit him with the shovel and broke his finger, and his finger was hanging out on the side in his glove, and he ran home. So we didn't have Eric to shovel that day.
It's treacherous work, shoveling snow. Something that my children will never understand in their lives. It's amazing.
All right. So let me tell you my real first job that I would say. So the first job I ever had was selling newspaper subscriptions door to door.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that it worked is this guy, I'm not sure if I should use real names. I'll use first names. So this guy, Steve, he was in his probably early 20s. He would pick us up in a red van. And the red van was
windowless
red van with no seats. It's completely metal inside, and you sit on piles of newspaper.
Your parents were like, fine, go with them.
Yeah, exactly. Nowadays, we're like, oh my God.
A windowless red van pulls up. Yeah. All right, go on.
So Steve, so it was me, my friend Steve, and my friend Eric, who were my two best friends. And the other two guys who were there, this guy, Alex, who we called a metalhead. He was of Asian descent. And he was really into Metallica. He wore a vest with like master puppets kind of iron on, I think, in the back of his denim vest. And then this guy, we call him Tear Dirt, this guy, Mike. So he would pick us up and then we would drive to a neighborhood like far away from our house, and he would drop us off and we would go knock door to door to sell newspaper subscriptions. So in the meantime, he would introduce us to new music. So he was really into Jean-Michel Jarre, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Whoever it is, he can correct me on that. But I was like, wow, this is sort of interesting. I don't even know how you describe it's sort of electronic, really beautiful stuff. But I never heard that kind of music before. So he would always introduce us to a more sophisticated palette of music. But the funny thing is, And Alex hated it because he wanted to listen to heavy metal, and we wanted to listen to hip hop. So this was we would settle. Yeah, we would settle. And then but this kid Mike, he was very good at doing impressions. He would constantly do impressions of different people. He was very, very good at it. His job was really hard. You knock on the door and you give him a Sunday Inquirer, which is in Philly, that's their paper, and you say, hey, sign up for a subscription. You get this free copy of the Sunday paper. And, your door slammed in your face. And it was a great way to deal with rejection really early on. I was probably 13, somewhere around there. It was a great way to learn how to do that very, very early on in your life. But so I would, constantly get rejected, and, every once in a while, get somebody to subscribe. So I feel, by the way, I'm going to PSA, I feel really bad about this now, but at that time, I did not feel bad about this. So remember I said this guy, Mike, did voices. And one of his characters he did was I don't think the word retarded is politically correct anymore. So I'm going to say.
No, you can just say a retard. I think that's okay.
Oh, okay. Mentally challenged.
Mentally challenged is fine. Mentally challenged.
So he would do this mentally challenged character. This is so funny. So I told him, why don't we partner up? So I would go to the door and I would knock, and people would open the door, and I would give them the story, and I'd say, yeah, so we're selling newspaper subscriptions to support the mentally challenged. And Mike, do you have anything to say? And Mike would be like, oh, whatever. I'm not doing that. I would rock it, because people are like, yeah, for a charity for mentally challenged kids, of course I would. So I was just like, and everybody was like, why are you getting so many sales? Why are you getting so many sales? I'm like, don't say anything. And then somebody ratted us out. They complained about us, and we got in trouble, and I had to give that up. But that was my first real job.
Well, I don't know what lessons we can take away from that, other than that you're a terrible person. No, that's and ingenious. God, my first job was probably my best job. I was thinking about this morning. My best and worst job, because my family used to vacation in a place called Fire Island, and we would stay there for the whole summer. And I always wanted to be a lifeguard. I had this fantasy of being a lifeguard, but that was never going to happen because I was 13 years old.
This is pre-Baywatch, right? So you didn't have Hasselhoff. Who was your?
I didn't have any Hasselhoff, but of course, all the lifeguards were really attractive, and they were all older than me. But I wanted to be a lifeguard, so I got the nerve up, I think, with a friend to ask, the lifeguards, how do we become a lifeguard? And they, well, you're too young, whatever, but we have this thing called Beach Patrol, and we can give you $10 a day. And we're like, Beach Patrol, that sounds awesome. And they gave us these T-shirts and said Beach Patrol. It turned out what Beach Patrol really meant, there was two parts of the job. One was to clean all the seaweed off the beach at 6 a.m, which was a nightmare. The other was that in the weekends, they had a strict policy back then that people couldn't go topless. And this was in the 80s, 70s, and maybe even in the 80s. And for some reason, all the women on the weekends would come to that beach and want to be topless. So my job was to have to go up to, this is a 13-year-old boy, go up to, 21-year-old women with their tops off and say, excuse me, ma'am, the rules are that you're not allowed to have your top off. I have to ask you to please put your top back on. Like, that was my job. It was really hard for a 13-year-old. But for many ways.
I see what you mean about being the best and worst.
It was the best and worst job. It was like, I got to know the female anatomy, but I also was mortified with embarrassment. And oftentimes the women would not be happy that this kid was walking up to them with their tops off, telling them to put their tops back on.
Did you have any other interesting experiences with any of those women that were?
No, I actually found one of my girlfriend from that summer. If we say girlfriend, I mean that I went and had ice cream with her. Who, I found her on Facebook. That's the joys of Facebook, right? You find these people that you never, ever in a million years thought that you would ever find again. I mean, she doesn't even live in the country anymore. But so it got me very interested in water sports. And and I never did become a lifeguard, but I'm very good at telling women. It's interesting now. Whenever women see me, they just want to put their tops on. So there's something obviously about me that inspired women.
You got to make a shift. Off. Take him off the top.
Yeah, right.
That's funny. So I was a certified lifeguard, and I used to be a Boy Scout, and I went to Boy Scout camp. So that was one of my first merit badges, and I was a lifeguard in the pool for a while. So I did achieve your dream.
Well, it never happened for me. I tried to make it happen for my kids. They're like, we don't want to be a lifeguard. I tried to make them live my dream, and they were like, no, thanks.
Yeah, we'll show them Baywatch. Maybe
that'll change. No, they'll probably just think that's cheesy.
That's so my best job.
But I do have a good Pam Anderson story. But
go ahead.
We always have top stories. Oh, Pam Anderson just hated me. I interviewed her in her trailer, and every question that I asked her, she took offense with. Like, it was like I was asking her something. Like, no matter what it was, I was like, so tell me about the beginning of your career. What do you mean, like, the beginning? Like, are you saying that my career didn't start? She just, I don't know why. There was something about me that she just, like, every question I asked her just upset her.
Interesting.
It might have just been the setup because I was with Maxim magazine. So her assumption was that I am just the worst person in the world.
Why Maxim had a reputation of some sort?
Well, Maxim was just, it wasn't a Playboy, but it wasn't exactly like the most, it was, there was a lot of scantily clad women in the magazine. So
you didn't get it for the articles, you mean? You just
well, yeah, apparently people did buy it for the articles, but but anyway, the reason Pam Anderson was in the magazine was not because of the article about her. But she just didn't like me. But anyway, then we got really high, and that's the end of that story.
Well, that's it. That always is it. Like we said, it's a bringing people together. That's
if I would have had a joint and would have been like, hey, would you want to smoke a joint? I mean, that would have totally eased the situation.
I'm gonna do another PSA. I've done like 3 on this show. I don't think I've done any on any of the shows, but for the reporters out there, for anybody who's doing interviews, I would suggest that before you start, I would share a joint with your subject, whoever you interview. I think
it goes smart. It's a peace pipe. It really is a peace pipe. That's what was in the peace pipe. Nobody ever talks about that, but it was a lot of hashish.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So my best job, I think I talked about it before, but my favorite job of all time was Tower Records, for sure, 100%. It was the best. I made no money whatsoever, but I mean, I still through Facebook, as you said, I still keep in contact with some of the people I used to work with. And there's a certain bond between us Tower Records people that we still maintain, because I think it was just such an interesting place to work, and if you're a music person, I mean, I couldn't think of any better job, because you're just music is all over, everywhere, all the time. And it just was an amazing job. And the amount of records I got to collect, and shirts and CDs of thousands and thousands of, and concerts and all that stuff. So that was my favorite. My worst job, I had to think about it for a while, but the job itself may have not been the absolute best job. It's just the extracurricular activities that came with the job. So I'll explain this, and you can tell me your feedback, and the audience can give me feedback on that too. So I worked for this retirement home. So this retirement home, I was a waiter. So they would serve lunch and dinner, and a couple hundred people go into the room, the dining room, and you serve them your prepared meals. And I think they get to choose either one or the other. So it's basically 2 meals that you're serving. And there was 2 people actually died during dinner service. So that was really interesting. Kind of shaking, trying to wake them up, and they were already they passed. Yeah, but that wasn't the worst part about the job. The worst part about the job was that we had to have so we would circle around to different activities in different posts. So after we got done serving, some people would vacuum the dining room, for instance. Some people would, clean up the back or something like that. One of my jobs was a dish catcher. Someone described this. A dish catcher, by the way, this is in summer in Philly. It's already hot and humid, 90 some degrees. In the kitchen where they're washing dishes, it's even more humid and hot, over 100 degrees. So there's a machine that comes out with all these dishes. And what my job is to grab the dishes with my hands, catch them, and stack them into a thing. So the skin would burn off my fingertips because the dishes are so hot. So I had a bucket of ice. I would put my hands in ice, cool them off, grab as many as I can, put them back in the ice, and I would do that. And it was just the worst. I would come back and my fingers, all of them would be burned and hurt, and I was sweating. It was the absolute worst job. Now, somebody asked me recently, I was just talking about my job, and somebody said, why don't you wear gloves? Never thought about it. So if I can go back, I would just wear gloves, and I think it would be better.
You know, people have the best ideas, and you never ask them. My worst job was also dishwashing. I think that might be just one of the worst jobs you can possibly have. It's not a fun job. It's pretty gross, but everybody has to do it. No, not everybody. We did it. I hope my kids will have to do it. I make them do it every night anyway.
Do you do that? Do you make them?
My son does.
Make him watch dishes?
My son does. He likes it because he listens to his YouTube, and I don't know. But yeah, I did it. And I did it at this place called the Black Dog in Martha's Vineyard. And it's funny, that shirt is so popular, especially if you're in the East Coast. You see all these people walking around with this shirt that has a black dog on it. It's just like a preppy thing that a lot of people walk around with. And when I see that shirt, I shiver. It's like, to most people, it represents like the cool, preppy Martha. To me, it's like, oh, that was the worst job I ever had in my life. Yeah, just people's dirty plate. Can you imagine the age of COVID, like cleaning dirty COVID plates? Anyway, well, jobs.
Yeah.
Can't live with them.
I just find it fascinating because people complain, and like my daughter and her friends, and she's on set, and she complained today. I probably shouldn't be talking about this because she's probably can hear me somewhere, but I'll say it anyway. She was complaining that she was on set today and she didn't get a chance to eat, and she was working really hard. She goes, and she got back and she was so tired. And it's tiring. I'm not an actor, but I've been on sets before. It's very tiring. She's like, oh man, I feel like I'm a construction worker. She got off. I'm like, no. I'm sorry. You do not feel a construction worker feels like they're a construction worker. This is, hard work. I'm not saying that's not hard, but it's not the same thing as you're digging ditches or anything like that.
Right.
Way different than that.
Yeah. No perspective there. And was that a union shoot?
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huh? She should have gotten her break.
I think she got a break, but
but it wasn't enough.
Anyway, it's these days. That's what I'm saying. Let them go to Paul's Run. Oops, I think I said the nursery, but I don't even know if they're open anymore. But anyway, let them go and catch dishes in 120 degree heat.
Yeah, right.
So, John, how do you feel about jumping into our very popular feature? You ever heard this before?
Have you ever heard this before? This is our feature. I always love it.
By the way, please come up with a different name. If anybody has a suggestion, right, maybe something a little more unique than that, because I think ours is pretty simplistic.
Something like, I've never heard this before, or wow, I can't believe you're playing me this. Yeah, and once we come up with a segment, we'll give you credit, and then we're going to write a little tune that's going to say like, I've heard it before, I've heard it, whatever it is. Well, I'll come up with a little tune so that we can sort of introduce this segment. But in this segment, we introduce songs to each other that we have never heard before. And hopefully also introduce them to our lovely studio audience, our lovely listening audience, and get them turned on to some new music or even old music that is new to their ears. So, Len, do you want to go first? This is a little bit of a technical disaster. No, it's not really a technical disaster, but I have to share my screen so that we can play Len's song. Now, part of the tricky thing about Len's thing is he's given me a YouTube video, which I am not going to I'm not going to where is that YouTube video? I am not going to look at it because then it gives away who's singing. So I'm actually putting my hand over the title of the artist because I think that will ruin it. And I'm about to press play.
Yeah.
On
So
it.
let me just set this up too, because
Okay.
I'm going to set this up because the reason why I send you this one, because it's a live performance, and the live performance isn't the best quality because it was recorded uh, in a radio station studio.
Okay.
But, so the question for this is, the name of the band is not as important. It's the person who's actually the female singer who's singing lead. I'm curious to see if you would know who that is, and you probably will once you hear it.
All right. Let's end without further ado, and we will tell you what it is at the end of it. So here we go.
All right.
Sounds like the beginning of a Steely Dan song. This song. I love this song. Now I dream of you. Never heard this version though. But I still believe there's only enough for one, and there's only hotel swing. The time is long, and I feel so bad. I'm thinking back to the last day we had. That was really good. I loved it. And I cheated. God damn it. I didn't mean to, but I looked at the video for a second and then all of a sudden it was in there and I couldn't look away. But that was Sia.
That was Sia, correct.
And I love that song, Destiny. That's the first time I've ever heard that version of that song, but it's 07's Destiny.
Yeah, so 07 is a British band. I think they started in the late 90s. This came out, I think the album is called Simple Things. It's a double vinyl if anybody wants to go out and get it. Sia performs 3 or 4 songs on that album. If anybody is not familiar, like, you know, the things that Sia sings now, they're very pop. She's got an incredible voice, but she's part of the machine now, right? They make this music for her, but she has got such a soulful, jazzy voice. And if you really hear her performances on that 07 album, they're amazing, fantastic. Highly recommend. I
love Sia. I think she's done all sorts of different things. And she's very modest. A friend of mine went and saw her at the Hollywood Bowl, and she never even shows her face. She
I was there. She was turned around backwards for the most part, and then she had that girl Ziegler, who's the dancer, who wore the same two-tone wig, and she would just dance and perform. And she wore a two-tone wig, and she kind of stood backwards the whole time.
That's like probably the most I've ever seen Sia in that video. And I didn't even recognize her because she's so unrecognizable because she never shows her face. She's like the opposite of a millennial. I guess I don't even know how old Sia's probably, but she's she's like the opposite of like selfies every minute kind of Kim Kardashian artist. All right. I am going to play you something that is also a cover. Well, actually, that wasn't a cover. That was their original song, but they had somebody singing it. This is a cover, and I'm curious to know. There's an artist that I was not familiar with, and I'm curious to know if you recognize the song. It takes a little while to all kick in, so we'll let it run for like a minute and a half. But let me cue it up here. I'm gonna roll it. Do it.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear it?
No, I can hear you.
1 second. You couldn't hear that? You couldn't?
I could hear it just a second ago. I could hear it, but the whole time I couldn't.
Oh, all right. Little technical glitch here for our audio engineer. We will start over. Tell me if you can hear it when I click it in the now. Hear it?
Yeah. I can't hear it. I can hear it now.
In the deepest ocean, the bottom of the sea, your eyes, they turn me. Why should I stay here? Why should I stay?
Anyway.
I'd be crazy not to fall.
So, did you like it?
I do like it.
All right, I got to turn you off so I can these are another technical difficulty. I have the song on
It's
it.
still playing.
Okay. You liked it?
I do like it. I think the song sounds very familiar. I think I kind of know
What it is?
Band.
Take a step. Take a stab
What's
at
that?
it. Take a stab at it. It is a band that you're familiar with. I know that.
Well, I believe it's a Radiohead song.
Yes,
if
you
I'm
got
not
it.
mistaken.
It is a radio.
I'm trying to remember the name. I was trying to rack my brain which one, but I think it's from OK Computer. No,
I think it might be from, the song is called Weird Fishes. And so I think it's actually from, it is from, Weird Fishes is from, oh wow, they actually did a little tiny studio again. Where does Weird Fishes win? Weird Fishes Radio Lab is from, I don't know. It's from one of their big albums, Colors. No, I don't know. What the hell is the name of the, I don't know. We'll look it up. Weird Fishes Radio Lab. But
the voice of the singer sounds so familiar too. I was trying to kind of figure out who that is.
So I have never heard of her, but her name is, Leanne Lahavas, Liannelahas. She has a beautiful voice. It's a really cool video. And I really recommend. I heard it on our local station, KCRW, and I was like, what the hell is that? And they're very good at finding kind of songs that are kind of rare or that you might not have heard before. So I was really excited. I love that song. It just kind of builds and builds and builds, just like the song on Radiohead does. It just builds and becomes this crazy, amazing song. But she has such a beautiful, soulful voice, and I thought you would appreciate it because you seem to like stuff that has a lot of soul. And so I thought you might.
I love that. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's definitely
Leanne Lahavas.
All right, so
wow, so there you have it. Another segment of You Never Heard That Before. Maybe that's what what are we going to call this? Help us.
I don't know, but listen, I got to tell you, it's maybe selfish, but I don't care if people like this or not. I love this.
The
This is
feedback
one of my
we've gotten is
favorite
quite positive. People, the one they've said they love it. In fact, they liked it so much they asked us to include links to the songs in the description so they can find the music and listen to it afterwards.
Yeah, you're absolutely. I was just being facetious, but you're absolutely right. We got a lot of feedback from people saying this is great learning new music, and they asked us to post the link. So
right. Maybe the whole show one day will just be us playing songs for each other. It would just be like us hanging out.
Dude, that would be the best. That's the goal of the show. This is all just filler. This is
the part we get excited about every episode. Well, I already got like 5 songs ready to go for the next time.
Me too. I'm ready.
If you guys have some, maybe some suggestions at home of songs that we might not have heard of that you can turn us on to, artists that we don't know about that you can turn us on to, we are down to listen. We could actually have special guests come on. We should have Meryl come on and play us a song, or just somebody from the team to come on and play us a song.
Everybody, they're welcome to come on and welcome to introduce us to new music. It's funny because I was trying to figure out what I should play, and there's some stuff, but I'm like, this is so obscure and so interesting that I did it for a couple of people that I knew. Like, oh my God, I never knew that was Sia. So, but I do want to be introduced to newer music. So if anybody has anything new, also obscure, like older stuff, but if somebody has anything new, I always like to learn new stuff. And so it doesn't matter what genre, from classical all the way to jazz and anything in between. So
yeah,
please, that's
just not the blues for me. Although you've got
next,
me on
next song. All right, so let's do that instead of one of the ones that I had. Let's do a blues song.
I'm going to teach John to like the blues because I will admit I'm a huge fan of hip hop, of R&B, all the stuff, rock and roll, all the stuff that came from the blues. I understand the significance of the blues, like in music. Like the music couldn't exist without the blues that I like, and yet the actual blues I don't like that much. So,
well, you like Led Zeppelin, you like the Rolling Stones.
I do, but I guess I like the way they. No, of course I love Led Zeppelin, and maybe if there's some riffs there, I know that Led Zeppelin ripped off the blues like crazy. I get it. I mean, they'll admit it. They're the first.
Willie Dixon, Whole Lot of Love, all that stuff. That's Willie
all
Dixon's
from the blues. Yeah, so maybe I like blues more than I think. It's just that I wouldn't sit down and be like, I'm going to just listen to BB King right now. Like I don't know, but I do love.
How about?
I love
Gary Clark Jr.
Manish Boy. I do love Manish Boy.
Manish Boy. Okay. Well.
Yeah, I love that.
So we'll get. All right. So we know the.
Yeah, this will be good as a master course in the blues.
Well, there's two different. There's the old blues, and then there's the electric blues, right? So the old blues were acoustic blues,
right?
Anyway, Robert Johnson that comes to mind, and Leadbelly and all that stuff. Leadbelly is that Kurt Cobain did a version of Leadbelly's song in MTV Unplugged, the Nirvana Unplugged one. So that's like acoustic blues, and then you move into more electric blues, and modern guys like Gary Clark Jr. If you're familiar with that, like a very rockish, bluish kind of set. But yeah, all right. So we'll do blues. One last thing probably that I want to cover. I want to get your opinion because you're in the industry and you're in somewhat that part of the industry too, where there's events that are being celebrated, especially nowadays. There's events that people have that are Zoom events and all these different things. And I wanted to kind of let you know what I'm dealing with these days. I found really fascinating and kind of a trend that I'm not really connecting to. So I've been approached by several different organizers of events, and they asked me to present at their event. So that means I have to do I have to create a presentation, whether it's PowerPoint or something else. I have to take my time, allocate that, practice, because I want to do a great job. No matter who invites me, I want to do great. So it can be one person in the audience, it can be 1,000 people in the audience. But it's a pay to play. They're asking for me, for our company, for Endo DNA to be able to pay, to be able to present, create unique material.
Wait, you just you said to create.
To pay.
You just glitched for a little bit. They want you to create
unique material, present it, record it, and they own that material, and then they want me to pay for that. So it's a pay to play. You pay for your spot, which I found offensive. Like I really find that offensive. And I'm trying to get an understanding. Like, first of all, have you dealt with that? Have you heard of that? And I'm trying to get an understanding why this would be. I understand the sponsorship. Like if you're approaching EndoDNA and you say, hey, would you want to sponsor our event? You're going to get X amount of mentions, whatever that is. Okay, that's a different kind of that's a good different kind of relationship. But if you're asking me to take my time to create unique content that you're going to own, present that content, you recorded, you're going to get an audience using me and my company, you're going to own that, and you want me to pay for that?
Right.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction to this is that people are always looking for new ways to make money. And especially now during COVID, when a lot of the traditional models have been interrupted a bit. And, somebody probably told them at some point, or they probably heard that this is another revenue source. People will pay you for the exposure. I know that, in the case of one of the companies I work for, which will remain nameless just because I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal this, but I mean, it's public, they charge writers, from companies to pay their company to publish their stories. And I think it's a revenue source because the trade-off being that this company is so big and your exposure on their platform will be so massive that it's worth it for you to pay into. It's not a lot of money, but they're asking you to pay for the opportunity to be on their platform, which has millions and millions of views, right? And that's coming out of a trend that I'm seeing across the board in every industry, this kind of pay to play kind of trend. And it's not great. And it's especially when the traditional sort of advertising model and sponsorship model isn't working, because a lot of advertisers aren't advertising as much as they used to, or if they are advertising, they're advertising on very narrowly. They're just like putting their budget into Facebook and some of the big social media platforms and stuff, and they're not like spreading the love. So these companies are like forced to come up with other ways to get revenue. And, but it's not great. I mean, I think if you're going to have somebody do a pay to play, then you have to offer some exchange that's equal to the amount that, what your content provides for them. Like if they have no exposure and you're giving them, so I just gave my content for free to an organization that is going to promote it and going to put it in their sort of virtual event that they're putting on. Right. Now, if they had charged me for that, then I would want to know, like, what's the return on my investment here? Like, how many people are actually going to be watching this, and are people really going to be, is there going to be any kind of exchange? So I think I understand why people are asking you to pay, but I think they better be able to show what you're getting back in return in a tangible way, right?
No,
it's frustrating.
Well, I think it's, you're right about the trend. I definitely would want ROI. I mean, we're not doing it. I'm not doing it. But I think there's two things that are happening. Number one, they realized that people just want to hear themselves talk and they want to gain some sort of notoriety. And I think if they go on the circuit, the cannabis circuit that I was part of, and speaking circuit, that you'll get some sort of notoriety for that.
Everybody wants to be a thought leader, right?
Everybody. So they prey on that. And the other thing is that this whole notion you were talking about Facebook, well, it's very, very difficult to advertise anything cannabis related on any platform. Like Google doesn't let you do AdWords. Social media shuts you down with any mention of cannabinoids. Even for us, we don't have anything to do with cannabis per se. We don't touch the plant. We don't have any of that. And because we describe the endocannabinoid system, I guess the bot or whoever, it flags cannabinoid. Oh no, you guys can't advertise. So they're like, oh, well, you can't advertise in traditional platforms. So we're going to give you an audience. But the thing is that I find fascinating, you're actually presenting to the same audience that probably already knows who you are that's coming in. So you're not creating a funnel in any way. There is no real ROI, and you don't own the content. I mean, you kind of can use the content for yourself, but then the idea should be that I want to have a filter. And I'm not telling people what to do. It's their business model. They can do whatever they want. But I'd love for people that are listening to us now to comment and give us feedback, because I believe that there should be a filter. Not everybody in the cannabis industry that has a couple dollars in their pocket should be able to give them the opportunity, a platform to present. There's a space for that. It's called advertising, sponsorship. Go ahead, sponsor and pay, and you should be able to do that. But if you're going to go and you're going to present, I've been on some panels and I've been in some presentations where clearly, not saying that I'm some sort of humongous expert that knows things that other people don't know, but these people were saying incorrect information, like blatantly incorrect information, setting people up for having, some adverse experiences. And I happen to challenge them. I've seen a person literally walk off a panel, like in the middle of a panel, because the other person that was saying such outrageous, incorrect things, they found the microphone and walked off and left. And I have a lot of respect for that person.
Yeah. I mean, that's on whoever is sponsoring the panel. You would hope that they, look, I mean, we see it happening in the debates, all this fake information, disinformation, right, that comes out. And
there's no misinformation. It's all true.
It's all true. It's just, right. It's alternative facts. So, yeah, I think that, and also what it does is it doesn't level the playing field. It makes it a very elite type of, it's like, if you can afford it, can you be part of our event? And then you don't get to hear all voices. You just get to hear the people that have the most money. And so, one of the nice things about the cannabis industry is that it has a very egalitarian kind of thing behind it. And it's very, it's an industry that's very big into social equity and, helping out minorities and helping out, various people who aren't necessarily, don't always get the first dig at things, and I think cannabis has an opportunity to be different than every other industry. But if it starts going in this direction, then it's just going to be like every other industry. It's the rich end up getting their voices heard, and the people who don't have the money don't. So I'm hoping that people who organize these things. I mean, it's always about money. I'm sure they're doing it because people are willing to pay. And once you hear that people are willing to pay, it's hard to say no, I think, in a lot of times, especially in tough times like now. But I understand it. And I think it's good that you're taking a stand against it, because if you just buy into it, then you're just part of the problem, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And maybe if people are interested, we can do an episode all about like the big business coming in and what's going on with the cannabis industry and how can we maintain that, because there is an equalizer here, and that ability doesn't matter how much money you have to grow this plant the right way. It takes a skill, and color, class, all that doesn't matter. So I definitely want to discuss that at some point if people are interested.
To be continued. No, that's a very good topic and very timely, I think, especially where we are right now in cannabis. It's a kind of pivotal moment in cannabis, and especially, and what's going to be interesting to see after the elections, because a lot of things are going to change, because there's going to be a lot more legal states. It looks like the Northeast is going to open up, and New Jersey opening up. Look how that's going to change. Yep. Pennsylvania, New York, and anyway, to be continued. Glenn, always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is almost perfect because you froze.
Yeah, John, no, the pleasure's all mine.
You froze for a minute, and
it was my pause.
It's like your computer is just telling us, "I'm tired." No, I don't know, but your computer.
It's over. You guys are done. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll definitely
until next week. Oh, now I really lost.
Office on the next one for sure.
All right, let's take that last part over, because I lost you for a minute. I don't know. You really now you're gone. Well, I'm gonna sign off for Len. Well, you were. You're not gone, but you froze.
No.
Okay, now
you're back.
Yeah, now you're back.
Sign off?
Yeah, let's sign off. So until we meet again, I'm John Small.
And Len May. And thank you all for joining and listening to Everything